Today, we're going to talk about a massive shift happening in the business world, one that could be quietly costing you a fortune without you even realizing it. We're talking about the death of the generalist marketer.
And let's just start with a scene I bet a lot of you know all too well. You've got a cousin, right? They're good with computers, so you think, hey, why not hire them to do our socials? It feels smart, like you're saving a buck. But what if I told you that one seemingly small decision is probably costing you an absolute fortune? We're going to get into exactly why.
You know, the best way to wrap your head around this is with an analogy. Thinking marketing is just one job today is like thinking medicine is just one job. I mean, if you had a serious heart problem, you wouldn't just see any doctor, would you? No way. You'd go to a cardiologist, a specialist. And that's exactly what modern marketing is demanding right now. That same level of specialized skill.
And just look at this slide. The change it's just staggering. A little over a decade ago, marketing was, pretty straightforward. You'd write a blog post, you'd post on Facebook. Simple. Today, you are deep in the technical weeds optimizing something called cumulative layout shift, which is basically how much your web page jumps around while it's loading, just to keep Google happy. You used to buy an ad in the paper. Now, you're building ETL pipelines. Think of them like a complex plumbing system for your data, pulling it all together so you can actually understand what's going on. The game has totally fundamentally changed.
So, what does this new marketing landscape even look like? Well, the best way I can describe it is it's not a single continent anymore. It's more like an archipelago, a huge chain of specialized islands, and each one has its own unique terrain, its own language, its own tools.
First stop, the island of tech and development. This is where the coders live, the specialists in software, API integrations, and AI. These aren't your old school marketers. These folks are literal engineers, building the digital roads and bridges that all of modern marketing runs on. From there, let's sail over to the analytics island. The people here, they live and breathe data. They're setting up complex attribution models just to figure out what's working. They're the ones who can actually tell you if that money you're spending is making you more money. Because let's be honest, data without someone to interpret it is just a bunch of noise. Next up, we find the strategy island. This is where the big picture thinkers hang out, the consultants who live and breathe brand positioning and budget planning. They're the cartographers, the ones drawing the map for everyone else to follow, making sure every single technical thing that gets done actually pushes the business forward. And finally, we get to the island that most people think of when they hear the word marketing. But here's the thing, even this place is broken up into a bunch of different neighborhoods. The expert running your Meta Business suite, who's knee-deep in conversion APIs and pixel tracking, speaks a completely different language than the Amazon odds specialist who's obsessing over product listings. They are totally different skill sets. And this is where it gets really crazy. Let's just zoom in on one tiny little part of that last island, SEO, search engine optimization. This isn't just one skill anymore. You have people who do nothing but optimize site speed, others who are masters of making websites work across different countries and languages. And then you have the super nerds who are completely dedicated to the technical stuff, like core web vitals. It is literally impossible for one person to be a true expert in all of this. Okay, let's get our hands dirty for a minute. A client comes to you and says, "Can you just make my website faster?" Sounds simple, right? A straightforward request. But for a specialist, that's not a task. Oh no, that's the starting gun for a very complex project. See, before they can even start, a specialist has to speak the language, and that language includes terms like core web vitals. Now, these aren't just trendy buzzwords, they are very specific, very measurable things that Google uses to judge how good your website's experience is. LCP is about loading, FID is about how quickly you can interact with the page, and CLS is about whether stuff jumps around on the screen. If you fail these tests, your Google ranking takes a hit. Simple as that. So what does fixing it actually look like? Well, this slide shows you the reality. Making a site faster isn't a flip of a switch. It's a whole engineering project. You start with a deep audit, then you build a strategy for things like code and images, then you do some really complex technical work like code splitting, then you have to test and validate everything, and finally, you set up ongoing monitoring to make sure it stays fast. So let's circle all the way back to the beginning. Your cousin who does your socials. Can they really do all of that? Can one single person be an expert in JavaScript optimization and server response times and multilingual keyword research? The answer, almost 100% of the time, is a hard no. This stuff requires a team of people with deep, specialized knowledge. And that brings us to the most important part, the money. It's so easy to look at the price tag for a specialist and see it as just another expense. But that is completely the wrong way to think about it. It's an investment. And the real cost? The real cost is settling for good enough. So let's put a number out there, $25,000. That's a real number for a comprehensive process automation package. And when you see that, I get it, you might get a little bit of sticker shock, but just wait. Because look at the return. This is a real quote. That $25,000 investment saved this company $200,000 in the first year. Not to mention all the time and headaches saved. That is what true specialization delivers.
All right, let's do another one. Almost $7,000 for a marketing automation setup. Again, it feels like a big number, but what are you actually buying for that money?
You're buying this. An e-commerce company got back $180,000 in sales they would have lost, all because they set up automated emails for people who left stuff in their shopping carts. The investment paid for itself more than 25 times over. It's not an expense, it's a money-making machine. And you know what? This idea works everywhere, even in places you wouldn't expect. Look at professional headshots. A law firm spends a little bit of money on a real pro, someone who specializes in corporate branding. And the result? A 45% jump in client referrals. Why? Because their image suddenly screamed credibility and trust. The ROI is off the charts. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Is that we need a new way of thinking. The whole idea of one single marketer who can do everything, it's a relic. It's a fossil from a much, much simpler time. The modern way, the approach that actually works, is to build an A-team. You need a team of specialists who complement each other, where each person is a true master of their own craft. You get your data geek working with your SEO technician who's working with your automation guru, all guided by your brand strategist. That's how you win. And that really brings the question right back to your doorstep. I want you to take a hard, honest look at your own business. Is your marketing in the hands of one general practitioner who's trying their best to juggle everything, or are you building a real team of specialists? And the last thing I want to leave you with is this. In the incredibly complex world we live in today, trying to do everything guarantees you will excel at nothing. So you have to ask yourself, are you paying for a jack of all trades who is ultimately mastering none?